Well, good morning out there in internet land, wherever you are, all across the fruited plain and around the world. It is time. It is time. It is time. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, as the boys from Emerson, Lake, and Palmer used to sing. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch, our weekly gathering where we get together to talk about the news, try and figure out what it all means, scratch our heads, maybe do one of these, hopefully nothing else because that gets untoward, and we try to figure out what's going on in the world. Welcome back again. It is so good to have every one of you here. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to filter into the room. As always, we are on Twitter, we are on Rumble, we are on YouTube, and yeah, send out the message to your friends. Tell your mothers, your brothers, your lovers, your sisters, your misters to get their butts in here because we have got a lot to talk about. Oh my God. And good morning to you up in Connecticut. Howdy. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Waiting for everybody to kind of work their way into the room. Oh my gosh. Who else is here? Oh, my lover. My lover. Mwah. Good morning, my dear. How are you? Good to see you. Oh, my word. Yeah, spread the word far and wide. Tweet it out. Getter it out. Truth social it out. Tell everybody, come on in. We're glad to have everybody who wants to show up. Good times all the way around. Oh, has it been a week for news? My goodness gracious. So, yeah, we're going to give everybody a few minutes to get in here. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch, a review and comment upon items in the news. Because let's be honest, you've been out there working hard all week long. You've been trying to make it for yourself, trying to make it for your family, trying to make it for your kids, trying to make it for everybody that's involved in your life. You're out there working God knows how many hours every day of every week. You are frazzled. You are worn out. When you get to Saturday morning, all you want to do is decompress. But you've also got to be a responsible adult. You got to know what's going on in the world. Well, that's where we are here to help. We're here to help you catch up on those news items that you may not be aware of that happened while you were out there making the American dream possible for yourself and for your loved ones. So it's going to be a good morning, as always. Good to see everybody popping in already. We got people up in Connecticut. We got people in Virginia. We're just waiting for a few more of them to roll on in the room. Always glad to have everybody. So yeah, if you're out there, spread the word far and wide. Put it out on Twitter, put it out on Getter, put it out everywhere you want to. Tell your friends, get your butt in here because we've got a lot to talk about. Oh my goodness, there's been so much happening in the news. Some of it's breaking in the past 48 hours, and we'll get to some of that in HodgePodge Stew. Some things definitely ought to be talked about. These some news items that been going on this week, and just they're amazing. We live in extraordinary times. We truly do. And anybody that thinks otherwise, nah, then you're just not paying attention. It's just there's way too much going on right now. Some people call this the fourth turning, and maybe they're right. I don't know, but all I know is there is a lot in the news to be talking about. And gosh, I think I'm going to wind up switching up the order that I wanted to start with because there's a subject I want to give some thought to, and I did a video about this toward the end of the week, and it has to do with Joe Biden. And yeah, you would expect we're going to talk about the president of the United States, but it has more to do with something that I'm noticing, and I am genuinely torn on this question. I really am. I don't know what quite to make of it. And I'll get into this here in a second. For those of you who may not have had a chance to see the video I put out, there was a column that ran in the Washington Post, and this is one of the pipe organs of liberal media. I mean, if you're a lefty or a progressive or whatever you want to define yourself as these days, somebody other than down the center or over to the right, you're probably going to go to the New York Times, you're going to go to CNN, you're going to go to MSNBC, or you're going to go to the Washington Post. Okay, no problem. Well, an op-ed piece ran in the Washington Post that is so shocking that I don't know what to make of it, to be perfectly honest with you. So I guess I'm asking for some feedback on this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. What do you guys make of this? And let me get this thing pulled up real quick. Hang on. Should have had this ready to go, but that's the beauty of a live stream. You can kind of get away with some of your own mistakes because you've got the time to get over it, assuming your computer doesn't crap out on you. But take a look at this and tell me what you guys think. But President Biden should not run for re-election. This column was written by a fellow named David Ignatius. Well, good morning, Miss Shirley. Glad to have you. Glad to have you here. Good to see you. I think this is the first time you've popped in with us. So yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and or a mug of tea and pull up a chair, and we're just getting everything started. So glad to have you, Miss Shirley. So David Ignatius, who's been around Washington, D.C. for a very long time, by the way, wrote this piece called President Biden Should Not Run Again in 2024. So I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from this, and then I want to get into it because this to me is a fascinating, fascinating subject. Oh no, but well, now you may be on to something here. You really may be on to something. We're going to get into this. But let me get through a couple of paragraphs of this, and then we'll get into this discussion. Biden should not run for re-election in 2024 by David Ignatius. And where's my mouse? Where's my mouse? I've lost my mouse. There you are. Still getting used to this. If you've noticed, I've got a new setup here in the studio, and I'm still getting used to everything, even my mouse. So kind of crazy. All right, here we go. Joe Biden launched his candidacy for president in 2019 with the words, quote, "We are in the battle for the soul of this nation." He was right. Though it wasn't obvious at first to many Democrats, he was the best person to wage that fight. He was a genial but also shrewd campaigner for the restoration of what legislators call, quote, regular order. Since then, Biden has had a remarkable string of wins. I don't know about remarkable, but okay. He defeated President Donald Trump in the 2020 election. He led a Democrat rebuff of Trump's acolytes in the 2022 midterms. His Justice Department has systematically prosecuted the January 621 insurrection that Trump championed, and now, through special counsel Jack Smith, the department is bringing Trump himself to justice. What I admire most about Biden is that in a polarized nation, he's governed from the center out, as he promised in his victory speech. And again, I disagree with Ignatius on that point. With an unexpectedly steady hand, not his hand, he passed some of the most important domestic legislation in recent decades. In foreign policy, he managed the delicate balancing of helping Ukraine fight Russia without getting America itself into a war. In sum, he's been a successful and effective president. Well, again, we disagree. But here's the paragraph that is really making tongues wag. Okay. I don't think Biden and Vice President Harris should run for re-election. It's painful to say that, given my admiration for much of what they have accomplished. But if he and Harris campaign together in 24, I think Biden risks undoing his greatest achievement, which was stopping Trump. One last paragraph, and then we'll get into this. Biden would carry two big liabilities into a 2024 campaign. He would be 82 years old when he began a second term. According to a recent Associated Press NORC poll, 77% of the public, including 69% of Democrats, think he's too old to be effective for 4 more years. Biden's age isn't just a Fox News trope. It's been the subject of dinner table conversations across America this summer. Okay, let's get into this. I think David Ignatius, there's a lot in the first part of that article I absolutely disagree with. I think his assessment of Joe Biden is just absolutely absurd. I think it's a reflection of liberal cheerleading, to be perfectly honest. There's not If you look at the totality of Joe Biden's accomplishments, quote unquote, there's not a lot to be happy about from the perspective of the American people. Now, the establishment's probably very happy because they're getting everything they want. Okay. Military contractors are getting rich off this whole Ukraine war thing. You've got, blue states out there that are getting bailed out from their bad policy decisions. That Trump, had he won a second term outright, would have forced them to actually make some real substantive changes to the way they do things. But on the whole, I don't think there's a lot in Biden's presidency to cheer about. Okay. But all of a sudden, David Ignatius, a liberal's liberal, to borrow G. Gordon Liddy's old phrase, has come out and said Joe Biden did not run for re-election. And he's citing Biden's age and Kamala Harris as his two stumbling blocks. Now, what are we to make of this? I mean, it's one thing for people at Fox News or Newsmax or One American Network or Real America's Voice. You expect people on the political right to make these kind of comments, okay? You don't expect it to come from a liberal's liberal like David Ignatius and be printed in one of the pipe organs of the liberal music scene, the Washington Post. And it's starting to make everybody ask the question. And I think that the question was being whispered around long before Ignatius put this piece out there. Is the deep state and certain elements of the Democratic Party ready to dump Joe Biden? And there's a certain, now as I ask that question, there's a certain amount of history that goes into this. Okay. So you got to understand and when I say history, it's not just history related to Joe Biden, although he is intimately involved with that. There's history related to Washington, campaigns, elections, the deep state, the Democratic machine. And here's specifically what I'm getting at. Joe Biden has been a lifelong Democrat. Joe Biden has been a loyal Democrat. Joe Biden has carried the water for the Democratic Party on any number of different issues. Okay. Joe Biden is not beloved inside the Democratic Party. He never has been. He doesn't have the kind of affection that the Democratic Party would give to, say, a Bill Clinton or a Barack Obama. Okay. As a matter of fact, the primary reason Barack Obama took him as the vice president is that Biden could be the go-between between old school big city Democrats and the White House and be the negotiator. That's more, he was an errand boy, for lack of a better way of saying it. But Biden wasn't stupid. Biden has coveted being president all the way back to the 1980s when he first ran. Okay. But Biden finally got what he wanted. He got the presidency. Now, we can sit here and debate all day long, the means by which he got it and whether he got it, without election fornication, to borrow a phrase from Viva and Barnes. But he's got it. And you can make an argument for all intents and purposes, he's done everything that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party wants done. They've got plenty out of him. Moving the new Green Deal forward through either executive orders or legislative fiat, writing things into law as far as, spending, etc. But now all of a sudden they're ready to dump him. And the effort to dump him is proof of the fact that he is not as loved inside the Democratic Party as he believes. Because you got to remember one thing. There is one thing that the Democratic Party loves above all else, and it ain't people. It's power. They are never going to it comes down to It comes down to the difference between Republicans and Democrats. And I've said this for years. So if you happen to write down, you out there in Fedora Nation, happen to write down certain phrases that I use, here's one of them for you. Republicans view politics as a cause. Democrats view politics as a business. Now, what am I getting at? It's very simply this. Republicans view politics as a cause. In other words, politics in and of itself is pure. The institutions are good. We just have some people who are bad actors. And in our righteous indignation, we're going to go out there and campaign, and we're going to get good people elected, and they'll keep the system pure. And America will go on, and we'll be fine. Democrats view politics as a business. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's pretty much this. They are going to invest in their business. Their business is the acquisition of power. And having acquired that power, they're going to move an agenda forward. Okay. And they'll do everything they need to do after having acquired power to forward that agenda. If they have to worm their way into the institutions, the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, state governorships, secretaries of state's office, county clerk's offices, whatever, they're going to do it. Okay. They're absolutely going to do it. Why? Because they've acquired power, and now they want to keep acquiring power and changing the institutions around from what Americans have traditionally understood them to be to whatever they need them to be. The Democrats will do it. Why? Because politics to them is a business. Now, how does all that relate back to Joe Biden? Biden is now a threat to the Democratic establishment and the deep state because he could lose. Oh, come on, Front Porch. There's plenty of time between now and the election. Anything could happen. The Republicans could, as always, snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, but take a look at this. This, I think, is worth considering. And if you're wondering what's making all these Democrats so nervous, this is the latest average of polls at Real Clear Politics. Now, if you've heard me say it once, you'll hear me say it again. As a general rule of thumb, I don't like using an average of polls because it works from an assumption that all the polls are equally accurate. Okay. All their methodologies are good, the data is solid, yada, yada, yada. But there is one thing that an average of polls is good for. It shows you a trend line. Okay. And even the polls that show Joe Biden being up, he's up by a point, maybe 2 points against Donald Trump, a man who's been indicted not once, not twice, not 3 times, but on 4 separate occasions. Against a man, Donald Trump, who was vanquished from the Oval Office in 2020. And Trump just keeps coming. Now, keep in mind, there is one other thing I'll point out about all these polls. These are registered voter polls. These aren't even likely voter polls yet. And I have a feeling, and I'm going to try and talk to this subject with Rich Barris, if I can get him back on the show before the end of the year. I'd love to get him back in October. But these are registered voter polls. These don't even reflect likely voters yet. And Trump is up in a registered voters poll with 14 months to the election. If you're the Democratic Party and the deep state at this stage, you are crapping your pants nervous, okay? All right, this is giving you a case of very irritable bowel, and understandably so. Now, that leads to the Ignatius piece. Well, what he's talking about is stop that. I'm not ready to do that, right? How dare you? Crazy computer of mine. But lest you think that David Ignatius is talking out of his head here, or maybe he, somebody Gibbs smacked him too hard and it kind of rattled his brains around. This stuff is actually being talked about. Let me take you to Morning Joe on Wednesday of this week when that piece dropped in the Washington Post. Listen to this. The whisper campaign has started. It started in earnest, and it's now no longer a whisper campaign. The signal's being sent out. The deep state wants him gone. The Democratic apparatus wants him gone. They're looking at his polling numbers. They're looking at his physical and mental condition. They're looking at everything else, and they're realizing, ain't no way this guy's going to beat Trump twice. And I'm torn on this question. I really am. And I'm not torn because I'm torn for different reasons. Half of me sitting here saying it's too good to be true that the Democrats are going to be able to move him out of the way. I think they'd like to. I think they want to. I think they feel they need to, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. And the other half of my brain says, okay, this is just the nervous Nelly sort of reaction you get inside the Democratic Party when this kind of thing comes up because they're so paranoid of losing power and they're so paranoid of losing influence and they're so paranoid of not being able to move their agenda. They're not going to let anything interfere with that agenda. I don't know. But my gut keeps telling me the more I keep looking around, they're trying to get rid of him. Now, lest you think this is confined to just liberal circles, let me give you a perspective from somebody that I consider to be one of the best in the business. Molly Hemingway from The Federalist was on with Brett Baer this week. Listen to her reaction to all this. Oh, don't you dare start doing this to me. Hang on. Here we go. Now that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Molly is fantastic. Absolutely, she's fantastic. And I agree with her. I think she's on to something here. I really do. And then you got the comments from Glenn Greenwald. I'm going to go ahead and just play this one outright. Listen to this. Okay. See, now I'm starting to feel better here. And it's not so much I'm feeling better because my opinion's being confirmed. It's everybody's seeing the same thing. I mean, it's one thing for David Ignatius to talk about this. It's one thing for Morning Joe to talk about this, but everybody's seeing the same thing here. There are people at high levels of the Democratic Party and inside the deep state, however you want to define that, the military and intelligence apparatus, whatever you want to call it, they know they've got to get Biden to announce he's not going to run. Now, I'm going to play one more quote from Greenwald, and I think this one's really good, and they'll tie it all up. So give me just a second here. We'll get this thing pulled up for you. One momento, and here it comes. Okay, let's get into it because Jesse Waters just got into a couple other points that we've got to talk about if we're going to have a full discussion on this thing. Okay. Here's the problem for, oh, no sound? I'm sorry. Oh, I do apologize. Don't know why that's doing that. Okay, hang on a minute. Let me figure out what's going on here. I'm so sorry about that, folks. Don't know why it started doing that. Crazy. Apologies, apologies. But anyway, well, too late. The clip is gone. Okay, my bad. My bad, folks. But basically, the upshot of it was this. Um, the Democrats know they've got to get rid of him. They're desperate almost to get rid of him. But how do you do it? Okay. How do you get rid of Joe Biden and make this thing look natural? Well, there's one big complication to all this, and it's Kamala Harris. They can't get Joe Biden to out and out resign right now. That means Kamala becomes the president. And if you think that the polling numbers, yeah, you turn on him. That's how you do it. But if he resigns outright right now, she becomes president. The polling numbers for Kamala against Trump are worse than Biden against Trump. So what you've got to do is you've got to get Joe to announce he's not going to run. Now, people are going to say that I'm being horribly conspiratorial about this. I don't think I am. I've lived long enough to know what I see with my own eyes. And when all of a sudden you have the liberal pipe organs of the Democratic machinery, the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, and you all hear the same message: Biden's too old. Biden's too old. I can't believe he's going to run. Biden is so old. There's something in the wind here. I mean, there's a line from the movie JFK, and I used it in my video, and it's so accurate. Donald Sutherland is sitting on a bench with Kevin Costner on the Washington Mall, and they're having a conversation. And Donald Sutherland's character turns to Kevin Costner's character and says, like Caesar, he is alone. Something is in the wind. Everyone knows about it, but no one can see it. That's what's going on here. The Democratic establishment is ready to dump him. And they're using his age, his cognitive abilities, and other factors, although they're not bringing up the Hunter and Joe Biden stuff. But they know what's out there, and they know if the Republicans actually have a modicum of brains, then yeah, I roll my eyes deliberately on that. If they've got a modicum of brains, they could absolutely make Joe Biden miserable going into a reelection. And I think Glenn Greenwald's right. I mean, look, I mean, did anybody out there in the audience happen to see these clips that came out of Biden's trip to Hanoi over there for the G20 summit? Oh my God, these were awful. I mean, to the point his own staff is shutting him down, saying, "All right, no more questions." This was bad. It's like, oh my God, this is just awful, just terrible, craziest thing I'd ever seen. Yeah, he's absolutely awful, absolutely terrible. I couldn't believe it. Now, all of this effort to get rid of Biden hinges on one very big factor. And that is, will Joe actually announce that he's not going to run? Well, and that, you know what? That could be true too. That could absolutely be true. That could very well be true. Wouldn't surprise me. Because I say there's no great love for Joe Biden. I'll make an argument there's probably not that much great love for him inside of his own staff because they're all old Obama people anyway. But in this effort to try to get Biden to announce he's not going to run, there's a ticking clock in the background. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is from ballotpedia.org. I tried to get this to show up the other day and I could not make it work. These are the filing deadlines to get on the ballot in each of the states, as much as I could find anyway, to run for president of the United States. Let me show you some stuff here. Nevada. Everybody knows Nevada is going to be a very critical state this year. The filing deadline to get on the ballot is actually coming up 1 month from today. Now, maybe Joe Biden and his people have already filed, which I wouldn't be shocked if they did, but that's not the issue. If other Democrats are going to get into this thing, they've got to have the requirements done, the paperwork signed and filed with the Secretary of State's office in the state of Nevada by the 16th of October. Some other states of note. These are smaller states, and for Democrat purposes, they wouldn't really matter that much. Alabama comes up November 10th. Arkansas comes up November 14th. California, the deadline to get on the ballot to run for president is December 15th of this year. Are you beginning to see? Yeah, I think that's where they're going with this. I absolutely think that's where they're going with it. And I think that's who the deep state wants. They want Governor Slick. Okay. But my point is, if you're going to get Biden off the ballot, you've got, realistically speaking, you've basically got between now and I'll say the end of October to get him to announce that he's not running for reelection. Otherwise, forget it. The only other thing that would be available is a direct challenge to Biden, and apparently nobody inside the Democratic Party wants to do that. As a matter of fact, Gavin Newsom the other day it was last week, I think, had an interview. I think it was somebody from NBC News, if I remember correctly, and they're basically looking at him, he's looking at the reporter going, look, Joe Biden's our nominee. I'm going to be out there campaigning for him, yada, yada, yada. Now, maybe Gavin's saying this, and he's mouthing a platitude, which it could very well be. Maybe Gavin really knows what the score is. But in public, anyway, the Democrats are sitting there saying, hey, we're not going to challenge Joe Biden. He's our guy. We're going to get him reelected. He's an effective president. You know, he's great for us, yada, yada, yada. But the Democrats, in a big way, and they know that if they're going to get him off the ballot, they've got to do it between now and the end of October, maybe middle October. And paperwork has got to be ready to go to get people filed. And the longer this goes, that Biden doesn't do it, that he just digs his heels in, is less opportunity for them to jump into this thing because you got to have money and you got to have organization. Now, in Gavin's case, money wouldn't be a problem. Gavin Newsom could raise the money. I think the Democratic Party and the Democratic donors would get in behind him like that. But he's got to have time to put an organization together. What do I think is going to happen? I think, in spite of Joe Biden's obvious physical decline and his cognitive decline, which is quite, I mean, look, everybody's known this for years. Democrats were saying this back in 2019. Okay, so I'm not saying anything out of school here. But in spite of all that, the decision rests with Joe Biden. And let's be honest about it. Joe Biden has coveted, and yes, I use that word advisedly, coveted the Democratic presidency for himself for 4 decades of public life. If it hadn't been for the fact he got caught plagiarizing back in 1988, Lord knows he might have been president back then, or tried to be anyway. He ran in 2008, couldn't get it. Ran in 2020, he got it because he was the last man standing. Bernie scared the Democratic Party to death, and they're like, oh, we can't nominate this guy. We'll definitely lose. He's coveted being president all his life. He's finally got his toy. Biden is not going to give this up. And there's also one other consideration here, and I'm no lawyer, but this is what I'm thinking. There's another reason why he's not going to give it up, aside from basic covetousness. Legal protection. While he's president, there are certain legal things you can't go after him on. If he's out of office, all bets are off. He'll have some protections that go along with being a former president from a legal perspective, but there's a lot of things he'd be leaving himself wide open for. And don't you think that's not going through his mind, knowing all the crap he's done over the years? So yeah, to me, this is absolutely fascinating to watch. Absolutely fascinating. They want, I mean, to me, this campaign has got to be one of the greatest I have ever seen. On the one hand, you've got the Democrats who have Joe Biden, but would much rather have someone else. On the other side, you've got the Republicans who've got the guy who could beat Joe Biden and they don't want him. It's the craziest thing I have ever watched in American politics. It's absolutely insane. So I don't know. Man. It's cracking me up. Absolutely cracking me up to watch this. But where are we now? It's about 10 minutes after 11. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Glad to see Lee is here. Glad to see Up in Connecticut's here. And Shirley, I saw your comment. And thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Loves your show. Very informative, very interesting. Bless your heart. And I mean that in all sincerity. It's nice to get feedback from the audience, and it's comments like that that really kind of help me out. So I genuinely appreciate it. But yeah, it's about 10 minutes after 11 on a Saturday morning. By the way, I can speak to it where I am. This is probably the first morning that feels like fall. The air is crisp. There's sunshine outside. There's blue skies, but you can tell it's definitely, we're turning toward fall. Now, we've got about a week to go before we get there. So what's it like in your area this morning? I mean, have you got good weather? Have you got, if you're getting ready for your tailgates for your football games or whatever, you got, what's going on where you're at? So drop some comments in chat. Let's find out what's going on. Let's see what's going on Rumble. All right, we got some folks on Rumble watching us. Good to have you there. Now the Rumble folks are kind of interesting. I give them that. They're very interesting. They're very quiet. Bless their hearts. You hardly ever hear them say a word. But if you're on Rumble, I promise we don't bite. So just drop a comment in chat. We'd love to hear from you. So let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're out there. We'd love to hear from you. So just that's all I got to say about that. Very interesting stuff. Good stuff. So, anyway, let's switch up topics a little bit to let's see. So Leanne's got oh, okay. Rough on the water this morning. Ugh. Oh, that's gotta be man, when you're out on a boat, that ain't no good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad you're enjoying the water. Want to see you enjoy it, but whew, I don't know that I don't know I'd be getting out on a boat in those kind of conditions, but that's just me. So, and then we've got yeah, I mean Connecticut 260. Oh man. See, that is something that I would love to do sometime, and I've never I don't know, never I guess taken advantage of the opportunity is see New England in the fall. That to me would be a true joy, a real joy. New England in the fall. So I envy you Yankees up there. Um, Going back to Leanne's comment, it was rocking. We just got man loves to fish. Well, hey, I'm not going to knock him for that. Not going to knock him for that at all. If he's out there fishing, but yeah, I get it. I get it. So, oh, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about things in the land of enchantment. You guys heard about? I think I went off on. Yeah, no, I did. Now that I think about it, because I got red faced and oh, apologies to everybody who was here last Saturday morning because I was just getting beat red, angry in the face. You heard about what happened out in New Mexico, right? Yeah. Well, yeah. One last thing, then we'll get into this. Over severe storm any day, born and raised in Tulsa. Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that point. I can definitely see that. So, y'all heard about what happened out in New Mexico this last week, right? So, the governor out there decides that she wants to do something about gun violence. And she issues an order suspending concealed carry. Now, Razor Fist, if you're familiar with him, or the Rageaholic as he's sometimes known, did a video about this. And he pointed out something that I did not realize, and I should have. So I apologize to you, my audience. And he pointed out something that I should have gone to even before I went to the Second Amendment of the federal Constitution. You do realize that she violated her own state's constitution, right? Look at this. This is from the New Mexico Constitution. Okay. It is under, let me find it here real fast. It is under Article 2, the Bill of Rights. And it's under, I believe it is section, hang on. Sorry about this, folks. Here it is, yeah. Article 2, Section 6 of the New Mexico Constitution. No law shall abridge the right of the citizens to keep and bear arms for security and defense, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for other lawful purposes. Now, that second part has been amended because New Mexico now has open and concealed carry. But the governor out there got full of herself and decided that she was going to do something about gun violence and suspended for 30 days the right to open and concealed carry in Albuquerque and the Bernalillo County. Okay. Which to me was absolutely crazy. I had never in my life heard of such a thing. Okay. Never heard of this. I was like, what are you doing? Are you nuts? But she did it. Well, a federal judge, thank God, shot her down. Let me pull this up real quick because this definitely deserves some talking about. There it is. From the Associated Press, judge blocks suspension of right to carry firearms in public, citing against New Mexico's governor. We'll read a little bit of this and then talk about it. Article by Susan Montoya Bryan. A federal judge has blocked part of a public health order that suspended the right to carry guns in public across New Mexico's largest metro area, with criticism mounting and political divides widening over the Democrat governor's actions. The second-term governor imposed an emergency public health order Friday that suspended the right to openly carry or conceal guns in public places based on a statistical threshold for violent crime that applied only to Albuquerque and the surrounding areas. Judge Urias, who was appointed to the federal bench by Joe Biden, agreed Wednesday with plaintiffs who accused Governor Lujan Grisham of trampling on constitutional rights. Urias granted a temporary restraining order to block the governor's suspension of gun rights until another hearing is held in October. Urias said he doesn't blame Lujan Grisham for trying to do something in the face of these terrible deaths, but his duty is to decide a much more narrow question regarding the rights afforded under the U.S. Constitution. Now, I kind of expected this to happen because this is one of those moves that's so blatant and so egregious and so over the top that it was going to get knocked down. I mean, when the democratically elected sheriff of Bernalillo County says, "I'm not going to enforce this," when the attorney general of the state of New Mexico, himself a fellow Democrat, says, "I'm not going into court. I'm not going to defend the state on this," that's sort of telling everybody, yeah, this needs to be. I mean, when you have people outside New Mexico, David Hogg, Congressman Ted Lieu of California, all very big in the, gun grabbing movement, saying, we're not supporting this. That's sort of the signal. Hey, lady, we kind of agree with you, but you really went over the top on this one. Okay. Now, the judge knocked it down. What gets me, and this is, I've got to comment on this, and I really want to hear you guys' thoughts. What gets me about this is her reaction to it and the self-righteous grandstanding. I mean, listen to this. Quote, "I see the pain of the families who lost their loved ones to gun violence every single day, and I will never stop fighting to prevent other families from enduring these tragedies," she said, although she acknowledged previously that criminals would likely ignore her order. Lujan Grisham also pledged to increase state police presence in Bernalillo County and to focus on arresting those with outstanding warrants. She also said she would direct the healthcare system to expand capacity to deal with drug addiction and homelessness. Lawyers for the plaintiffs told the judge that the governor had other options to address the problem and chose to inflict what some critics have described as a punishment on law-abiding citizens. I want to read some other quotes real quick. This comes from ABC News. These are the ones that I found just to be so totally just full of it. Let me get to them real quick. These are really interesting, just mind-blowing. Just the self-righteousness of this woman is just absolutely amazing. Let's see. Here it is. In a statement following Wednesday's ruling, she said the judge temporarily blocked sections of her public health order, quote, but recognized the significance of problems of gun violence in the state. "I refuse to be resigned to the status quo," she said. "As governor, I see the pain of families." That's a quote we read previously, but here's some more of that gets even better. The governor told Good Morning America 3 earlier Wednesday that she had the, quote, courage to take a stand against gun violence in response to backlash over her emergency public health order. "Everyone is terrified of the backlash for all these political reactions," Lujan Grisham told Eva Pilgrim of GMA3 Wednesday. "None of those individuals or groups are focused on the actual injuries or deaths of the public. They aren't dealing with this as the crisis that it is. How would you feel in a city or community if people had handguns in their belts on parks near schools, on public trails, at the grocery store?" Oh, I don't know. I'd probably feel pretty good about it because it means, number one, I know who's actually carrying. And number two, if I get in a pinch, I know who might actually stand up for my right to self-defense. but that's just me. It's outrageous and it must stop. Why? Why must it stop? And I will keep doing everything that's based in science and fact and public safety efforts to clean up our cities to make this the safest state in America. And I will not stop until that is done. Okay, let's analyze some of this for a minute. And I want to get your thoughts on this. I really do. So if you chime in on this, please feel free. Why is it that courage is defined as, taking a stand that has no grounding in common sense, constitutional law, or anything else? I realize that courage is a characteristic, and I realize in part it's based on an emotion or an emotional response. But it is not courageous to do wrong to try to make a right. Okay? It's really not. It is not courageous to ignore the restraints of the law to solve a problem that you think ought to be fixed. And Leanne, you're absolutely right. Yep, you're absolutely right. I mean, and the part that cracked me up is when the reporter's sitting around the table that they're at and says to her, "Do you really think that criminals are going to obey this public health order?" And she said no, but I'm taking a stand. Well, whoop-de-doo. Good for you, sister. I'm glad you're taking a stand. How about taking a stand for the preservation of rights for the citizens in New Mexico? How about taking a stand for making sure that the rule of law is obeyed? How about taking a stand that punishes criminals as opposed to trying to limit the rights of your citizens to self-defense? That's an act of courage. Because in this day and age, it's too easy for politicians, no matter what party they are a part of, to try to chuck my freedom and liberty right out the window in the name of supposedly giving me some kind of safety. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I will, Leanne, I'll say this. I'll say this. I'm not going to say their motives are totally pure on this one. And and if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to apologize to them. I really will. But I'll say this. They did take a stand. Why they're taking a stand? Is it out of political consideration or because of principle? Well, who knows? But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The people are speaking up. Thank God. Thank God for that. But yeah, I mean, why is it courageous? I'm taking a stand. Hell, I take stands all the time. Does that make me right? No. The issue here should be, what does the law say? What does the Constitution say? That's where you should be taking a stand. I I agree with you. I do not want to see anyone killed. I don't care if it's with a gun. I don't care if it's with a knife. I don't care if somebody runs over them with a car. I don't care what it is. But why are you and I'm asking this one. This one's going to be for you Democrats out there, okay? Because I know y'all watch this. You just don't want to admit it. Why is it that you guys are so obsessed with guns? What did a gun ever do to you? Seriously, what did a gun ever do to you? It's an inanimate object. It cannot do anything in and of itself, but that someone doesn't have to pick it up and manipulate it to make it do something. A gun does nothing to you. A person could kill you. A gun can't. A gun could be used to kill you, but the thing that's killing you is the person on the other side of the gun, not the gun itself. But yet, you Democrats out there, you just all bent out of shape. You've got to get rid of guns. The guns are evil. I'm going to grab the guns. I'll never forget watching the movie The American President with Michael Douglas. I'll never forget this. And yes, it was written by Aaron Sorkin, so I kind of expect this. Aaron Sorkin is a liberal's liberal. But you know what? I'll never forget that scene where Michael Douglas is standing there, you know, playing the role of the president and says, "I'm going to go grab the guns. If I have to go door to door to get them, I'm going to get the guns." Like, what did a gun ever do to you? Nothing. A gun does absolutely nothing until it is manipulated to do harm. So what should it matter to you if I own a gun or not? I think that's a legitimate question. What should it matter to you, Mr. Democrat, Mr. Liberal, Mr. Progressive out there? What should it matter to you whether I own a gun or not? And what is this big deal with, well, that's a gun crime. No, he committed a crime. He just happened to use a gun doing it. The crime is murder. It's not a gun crime of murder. He just happened to use a gun to commit murder. Why don't we talk about the fact that he committed murder as opposed to focusing on the means by which he did it? You know, and you know what? I can respect that. I can totally respect that. You know, I mean, do I own a great deal of firearms personally? No, not really. Should I? Yeah. But I respect someone else's. If someone wants to own 50 different firearms, that's their own business. When it becomes my business is if they commit a crime. Mind you, I didn't say if they commit a crime with a gun. If they commit a crime, then it becomes my business. I've only heard a gun once, a rifle in '99, visiting friends that took the rifle out back shot. Yeah. Yeah, it's loud. My dad had a beautiful collection of rifles. Unfortunately, after he died, someone broke into my mom's house and stole them, most of them. Um, but beautiful collection of rifles. Some of these things were down through 3 generations of my family. There's one of them, I'd give a lot to get it back. It was an L.C. Smith double-barreled shotgun. This thing was owned by my grandfather. And I was looking forward to the day that it would be passed on to me, and I'm not going to lie about it. I was really looking forward to it, to receiving it as a family and heirloom. And now I'll never have a chance. But yeah, what did a gun ever do to you, you Democrats out there? The gun didn't do a thing to you. And why should you care if I own a gun? You know. Oh, so you know that which I speak. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, I love me a good rifle. Lots of them love me a good pistol. There's a Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's fantastic. But yeah, this is where this crazy woman up in New Mexico is going. But there's an update to all this. Got to show this to you. Let me pull this up real quick. Whoops. Oh, what's going on here? My screens just went dark. Oh, okay, we're back. Ah! Had a panic attack there for a second. Sorry, folks. Um, she's modified her order. Check this out. This is from Breitbart. New Mexico governor amends her order, concealed carry ban only in cities and parks. Take a look. Let's take a look at this thing real quick. By AWR Hawkins, which by the way, if you are wanting to follow somebody in media who's probably one of the best reporters on questions related to firearms, then I recommend you AWR Hawkins. This guy's been around for years, and he is kind of like one of my go-tos on questions of Second Amendment reporting. I mean, if I really want to know what's going on with something, AWR Hawkins is probably one of the best you're ever going to find. So if you can follow his work out there in media, do it. I mean, if you want really that somebody that's good, down the middle, and solid, as far as their reporting about gun-related issues and Second Amendment, AWR Hawkins is your man. But in his article that he printed at Breitbart, we read the following. If I can get my mouse to work again. Where are you? There you are. Ugh, so confusing. Okay. On September 15th, 1 week after issuing an order banning concealed and open carry in Albuquerque and other New Mexico cities, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham amended her order so it only applies to cities and parks and playgrounds. Grisham's amendments to the order came 2 days after a Biden-appointed judge issued a temporary restraining order against her concealed carry ban. On Friday, Grisham held a press conference to announce the changes to her order. The Santa Fe New Mexican quoted Grisham saying, quote, "We have removed the requirement that open and concealed carry cannot occur until the public health order has been removed or extended anywhere in the city." And this is from her Twitter page. "I have amended the public health order to specify you cannot carry guns in city parks or playgrounds in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. I respect the judge's decision on the last public order, but I am far from done fighting to protect New Mexicans." Okay. Kate, let's see. Okay, that's all right. Yeah, she caved a little bit. She did cave. Now, I will say this, and this is just a piece of advice for people out in New Mexico. Okay. Be very careful here. And again, it's your state. You live there. You know what you've got to do. You know what you want to do. But if somebody from New Mexico happens to be watching this, don't give her an inch of daylight on this one. If it wasn't good enough the first time, it's still not good enough now. So now what she's doing is, frankly, had I been in her shoes, I would have gone this route the first time. I would have said you can't carry open and concealed at playgrounds and amusement parks in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. And what you're doing is you're soft soaping it. Okay. You're basically saying, well, look, it's just a little bit of constitutional infringement. I mean, really, you don't have to carry a gun openly at a city park or a playground. No, you should be willing to suspend your constitutional liberty, just for the safety for the children. Come on, do it for the children. Hey, y'all out there in New Mexico, I'm warning you right now, you better be on her like white on rice. Don't let her do even this. Your state's constitution does not give an exception to your right to conceal and open carry firearms in your state just because it happens to be at a playground or a park somewhere in Albuquerque, New Mexico. No, your state's constitution is clear on this matter. Your Bill of Rights is exceedingly clear on this matter. There is no exception to the right to keep and bear firearms in your state. Don't let her get away with this. Take her right back to court and sue her again. That's what I recommend you probably do if you are so inclined. But I'm telling you, she's trying to soft soap you on this one. Don't let her get away with it. That's exactly what she's doing here. Oh, it's for the children. Really? I mean, she even flat out said in her news conference, no constitutional right is absolute. Well, she's proving it right here with this cave. And I agree with you. She caved on this. Okay. I don't know, but I will say this. I don't know if it's so much as it's a cave or it's a backup and figure out, okay, now how am I going to get this under the door again? How am I going to get this one past everybody? She's being a little more sneaky about it. The first time she did it, she was just so over the top egregious. Nobody could possibly support what she was doing. Even if they were Democrats and they wanted to see this enacted, they're like, hey, we ain't doing this. She's crazy. This time she's being sneaky about it. So again, For those of you out there on the internet who are watching this and you happen to see my commentary, I'm just telling you, don't give her an ounce of daylight. Don't let her breathe. Stay on her like white on rice. I'm telling you, you let her do this, and then it's going to be the next step, and then the next step. And then before you know it, you got a full on problem out there. Stop this problem before it ever gets started. Don't let her infringe on your rights to self defense by owning a firearm. But that's just me. Anyway, it's about 11:30 on Saturday morning. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch, our review of the news. Let's see. We have a comment in Rumble. Hang on. This news is reminding me. Oh, well, we'll get into some of that. NASAphobia. I see you over there. Hey, thank you for chiming in. Glad to see you. I don't know if you're a gentleman or a lady, but I'm just gonna say, hey, y'all. Let's see. Yeah, we might take a look at that. Might take a look at that. But good to see you. Let me drop a comment in here real fast. Hang on one second. Oh, it is. Oh. Hang on. I just got I'm trying to do three things at once here. Oh, hey, do me a favor. If that vote happens to come up, let me know. If we're still on the air and that vote comes up on Paxton down there in Texas, let me know, and we'll try and find some way to jip into it or talk about it or whatever. But keep an eye on that one for me, would you please? I genuinely appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I knew it might be coming up this weekend, but I didn't have anything prepared to talk about. But God, I'll definitely get into that subject. Oh my God. Okay, for those of you watching this right now that are wondering what we're sort of bantering about, and I apologize. Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of the state of Texas, is being railroaded by a bunch of freaking rhinos down there in Texas. Which, by the way, y'all down in Texas, I love y'all, but y'all got a problem down there. Okay, y'all been Republican for so long, you got a bunch of bushies in there, and I mean, your Speaker of the House is a drunk. And absolutely, y'all got a problem down there. This whole Paxton trial, y'all need to be cleaning house. I'm just saying, it's time for the good freedom loving people of Texas to like put some politicians on notice. But that's just me. But yeah, it's about 11:40. This thing, yeah, Revenge of the Bushes. And the irony of it is, their brand of Republican politics is about as dead as a doornail. They just don't know it yet. They just don't know it. Well, maybe it's better to say they don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit that their brand of republicanism is dead and dying. So, very interesting stuff to watch. But yeah, if anything comes up on that Paxton vote while we're still on the air, by all means, let me know. Because yeah, that's definitely worth a discussion because that poor man's being railroaded. Didn't do a thing. I mean, I've seen clips on Twitter of his defense attorney, Busby. I love that guy. I love him. He is a character. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good, competent lawyer. But if you can give me competence and theatricality in a courtroom, God, that's perfect. I mean, the days of guys like Jerry Spence and F. Lee Bailey and all those very flamboyant, Marvin Belli, all those very flamboyant attorneys, down through American history, Clarence Darrow, all the rest of them. Oh, those are my kind of lawyers. Those are absolutely my kind of lawyers. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want you to be good at what you do. I want you to know the law. I want you to be willing to fight for my rights as your client. But if you can add some theatricality to that, God, you're my kind of lawyer. Oh yeah, he's great. I've seen some clips where he's had a witness on the stand one of the prosecution's witnesses, and he just tears them up. And not just the way he does it factually, but it's the style with which he does it. It's just that good Southern, good old boy Texas Southern style of his. Y'all mean tell me stuff like, y'all mean tell me you didn't have a one stinking charge. Y'all brought him up on this? Really? Really? He's great. I love him. Yeah, I love that man. Can we get him as the governor of Texas? If Paxton runs for governor, let's get Buzzy as the attorney general. He'd be fantastic. Oh my gosh. But let's shift gears a little bit. And I'm going to touch on this subject just briefly. And it's not because I don't know what I'm talking about when I bring it up, is I don't know if the Republicans know what they're talking about when they bring this up. But yeah, Buzzy's an absolutely true Texan. I totally agree with that. He is a load of fun. But let's get into this subject briefly, because there's some things in HodgePodge Stew. I've got some stories up here this morning that I definitely want to get to. After months, days of hand wringing, weeks of talking about it, months of mulling it over, McCarthy has directed the House committees to open a formal impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden's alleged involvement with Hunter's business dealings. Now, my first reaction is, well, whoop-de-doo. We're doing an inquiry. Ah! Now, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be so cynical about it, and I shouldn't be so, jaundiced in my view of this sort of thing. But, oh my God, come on, McCarthy. There is so much freaking evidence of blatant corruption that how can you not do this? Why haven't you done it sooner? Okay. Well, I mean, I don't like Nancy Pelosi's politics one little bit, but I'll give her this. She didn't even bother with the inquiry. We're just going to go straight to impeachment. And it just galls me. I'm going to borrow a phrase here from Steve Bannon. He's dangling the shiny in front of all of us, trying to make us grab at it, as opposed to looking at the other stuff that's going on that truly ought to warrant our attention. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Joe Biden is a bottom-feeding, scum-sucking politician of the worst ilk, a man who has used his public office to enrich himself and his family members for decades. I think the guy has got schemes on schemes. I think he is a grifter of the first order. Okay. So absolutely, they ought to be doing this. I think what bugs me the most is the manner in which they're doing it. It's just this slow walking public hand wringing. Oh, I really don't want to do this, but I don't have a choice. The evidence is so overwhelming. No kidding, it's overwhelming, you dipstick. I'm really full of my movie quotes this morning, but there's one that just comes to my mind immediately. Y'all ever seen the movie The Untouchables? Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, Andy Garcia, Robert De Niro. There's a great line that Sean Connery says to Kevin Costner. Connery looks at him. They're talking about doing a liquor raid right across the street from their offices at the U.S. Postal Service. There's illegal liquor over there. It's during Prohibition. And Kevin Costner is like, you mean there's liquor at the U.S. Post Office? And Sean Connery says the following. Everybody knows where the booze is, Mr. Ness. The only question is whether they've got the courage to go after it. And I think that applies in this case when it comes to Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker of the House. Everybody knows where the corruption is, Mr. Speaker. Do you have the courage to go after it? Now, I will give him this. If he goes forward and does what he's proposing, he's got 3 really good guys to back him up on this. Jason Smith of Missouri, who's the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Comer, who's the chairman of the Oversight Committee, and Jordan, who's the chairman of Judiciary. And all three of them are important. Now, Comer would be the lead dog in this hunt. Okay. His Oversight Committee has done the most work as far as pulling up information about the Bidens and the Biden business transactions. Jordan would be important because of his intimate understanding of the impeachment process, and he's the chair of the Judiciary Committee. The articles of impeachment have to come out of Judiciary. Jason Smith is important because of the tax stuff. And it's an aspect of the investigation that a lot of people don't think about, but it's this. He has chairmanship of Ways and Means, which deals with questions of taxation. That means that any tax records related to this, he might have a better chance than anybody getting his hands on, or at least he understands how these businesses are structured. I mean, the only question in my mind is this, and this comes down to the bank records. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If any of the money that came in to all those shell companies and those LLCs that Hunter Biden and his uncle James set up, if any of that money can be shown going into accounts that are owned by Joe Biden, then you've got everything you need right there, especially if it relates to Ukraine, because there's overwhelming evidence, and it's all out there. It's out there for everybody to see it, that U.S. policy on Ukraine was altered after conversations between officials from Burisma, Hunter Biden, and Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, John Solomon is, and I recommend him you go look it up. John Solomon of Just the News has done fabulous reporting, bringing up the fact that, Joe Biden's been out there saying, well, we felt we had to get rid of Shokin, the prosecutor, because he was corrupt, and it was U.S. policy to do so. That wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, U.S. State Department was very happy with Shokin. And I'll refer you, go check out justthenews.com. John Solomon's doing some really solid reporting on this. But what I'm getting at is this. If that money went from those shell companies into accounts owned by Joe Biden, and you can demonstrate that U.S. policy was being altered on, around, or after the time that these monies went into his account, there's a very serious possibility that Joe Biden was bribed. Was bribed and took a bribe. Everybody knows where the booze is, Mr. Ness. Do you have the courage to go get it? But there's one other point, and then we'll switch over to HodgePodge Stew. Why is McCarthy doing all this? Well, I think Matt Gaetz is breathing right down his neck. Absolutely breathing down his neck. I don't know if I can get this speech pulled up to give you the audio that goes with it. No, it's not going to let me. For some reason, my computer's giving me a problem with that. Yeah, they just need to present it. Just present the evidence. Just present the evidence. All they got to do. That's all they need to do. Present the evidence, and this takes care of itself. So, yeah. So tell you what, let's get into some HodgePodge Stew. Now, for those of you who are watching this show maybe for the first time, or you are new to what we do here on the Front Porch, there's a group of stories that I put together, or try to, that I call HodgePodge Stew. They are news items. They're just as important as the other stuff we talk about, but maybe they range anywhere from the serious to the silly, or anywhere in between. Most of these are going to be pretty serious, but we're going to kind of go through them. Good news, folks. Hunter Biden is going to be charged. Take a look at this. Hunter Biden could face up to 25 years in prison and a $750,000 fine. This story broke a few days ago. And this article is written by Wendell Husebo. Great reporter, by the way. Hunter Biden could reportedly face up to 25 years in prison and $750,000 in fines following 3 gun-related charges brought by special counsel David Weiss. Weiss, who was nominated by 2 Democrat senators and gave Hunter Biden a sweetheart deal before it fell apart, indicted Hunter on 3 gun charges. Notably, Hunter Biden was not charged with tax or Foreign Agent Registration Act violations. The gun charges are unlikely to be the last, ABC News reported. Hunter's lawyer claimed Friday that the charges against his client will be dismissed before the trial, which would negate the 25-year punishment and the fine. Now, that's the good news. However, there is some bad news that goes along with it, at least in the opinion of one of my favorite individuals that I follow, who is a very wise man, by the way. The good news is Hunter Biden is being charged. The bad news is what it means. Take a look at this tweet from Robert Barnes. The goal here is to tie up Hunter such that he can't be subpoenaed to testify in any impeachment effort and claim the fifth. It's not a real effort to punish. And Leanne, you are absolutely spot on, my dear. Spot on. Got to keep the big guy out of this until either he resigns or he's out of office. One of the two. So, yeah, I saw that and I was like, interesting. I think Barnes is on to something. And in an update from Texas, pontificate as a brother in Christ, this was a very, oh, God. Did they really say that? I mean, I believe you. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely believe you. But, just, jeez. Unbelievable. I'm telling you, y'all brothers and sisters down in Texas, y'all need to start cleaning house. I'm just telling you. Because this trial has exposed just how corrupt the Texas GOP has become. Y'all need to start cleaning house. Open up a can of whoop ass and start turning it loose on people, as we say in my neck of the woods. Yeah, anyone can be bought. And apparently there's a bunch of them down in Texas that is absolutely, their price tag isn't very high. Reminds me of a great joke I heard. It's one of my favorites. The legendary actor W.C. Fields, and this was back in the early part of the 20th century. He was out somewhere and having a conversation with some woman. And he looks at her and says, "Madame, would you sleep with me for $1 million?" And she said, "Well, of course I would." Then W.C. Fields looked at the same woman and said, "Madame, would you sleep with me for $1?" The woman became very indignant and said, "How dare you, sir? What do you think I am?" W.C. Fields replied, "Well, madam, we have already determined what you are. The only thing we're haggling over now is the price tag." You know what? W.C. Fields may have been thinking about a whole bunch of American politicians when he got that line off, because it applies to him. That's for daggone sure. So, that's what's going on with Hunter. By the way, on another subject in HodgePodge news, did you all see what happened up in New York City the other day? Oh my God. I wish my audio were working right now. I don't know why I'm not able to pull sound in, and I apologize for that. But I got to show you this. This is just great. I tell you what. Now, for those of you who are not aware of what's going on in New York City, I tell you what, people in the Big Apple are just about fit to be tied right now. And a lot of this goes back to the fact that Biden's absolute abandonment of trying to control migration across the southern border is affecting New York City. Now, here's what I'm getting at. And I reported on this probably maybe a couple of months ago in one of my videos. There's going to be an influx, and there is right now, of about 5,000 migrants / illegal immigrants coming into New York City every day. Okay. And New York City is not prepared to deal with this. Now, when I say not prepared to deal with this, I mean a lot of different things. Number one is the financial cost. Number two, where are you going to house them? Number three, are you going to put them in schools? And if so, do you have enough teachers to cover all that? This is turning into an absolute nightmare up there. Okay. An absolute nightmare. So, some members of Congress, mostly Democrats, Jerry Nadler, the ranking minority member on the House Judiciary Committee, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, among other of their ilk, held a press conference yesterday. Maybe been Thursday, but either way, it's very, very recent. And they absolutely got shouted down. Like I said, I wish my audio were working correctly. I'd let you hear this, but I mean, there were people chanting, "Close the freaking border, shut it down." I mean, this is in New York City. Okay. We're not talking about here, Ruby Red, Arkansas or somewhere like that. No, we're talking freaking New York City. Okay. They absolutely read these guys the riot act in New York City. I don't know if Jerry Nadler or Cortez or any of those Democrat congressmen up there had ever heard anything like this before, but believe me, they got an earful. And you can't blame the people of New York City. And I mean, look, I'm torn on this question. And not immigration, but I mean, this is what I'm getting at. There's half of me that says, I feel very sorry for the people of New York City. And I do. I really genuinely, I do. Nobody nobody should go through this. On the other hand, there's a part of my heart and my mind and my soul that says, you voted for these people. You voted for the Jerry Nadlers of the world. You voted for the AOCs of the world. You voted for the Joe Bidens of the world. You supported all these people. You didn't want Orange Man bad because of his mean tweets. You voted for Eric Adams when you could have had someone like a Curtis Sliwa, who would have been a great mayor for New York City. You did all this to yourself. And now it's coming home to roost and you don't like the consequences. Well, you know what? I don't disagree with you. I don't want to see you go through it, but you did it to yourself, New Yorkers. And I have people up there that I consider them friends and people that I admire. I don't want to see them go through this because this is going to affect their lives too. And I'm not blaming them. They're not who I'm talking about. So let me be very clear about this, okay? They got some sense. But it's all you New Yorkers up there. You voted for all these Democrat politicians, be they your city councilman or your borough president or your congressman or your senator or your mayor or your whatever. You voted for all these people. You've made this mess. You don't like what they've wrought to you. Well, guess what? You've earned every bit of it. And hopefully, this gets some of y'all to the point you start changing your mind and you start voting different. I don't expect New York City to become some bastion of Republican conservative libertarianism anytime soon. But if y'all don't start voting for some changes up there, as much as I will break my heart to see it happen, let New York City go under. You'll get what you deserve. Now we got a further update. They're set. Okay. We're gonna hang around. We're gonna hang around for this. We're gonna hang around for this one. But yeah, I agree with you about that part. Oh, yeah, yeah. Getting back to discussing New York City. Yeah, it does break my heart. I mean, look, and y'all may have heard me talk about this before. I love big cities. Okay. I live in West Virginia, and yes, I have all the I have all the blessings of, you know, life here. I've got good internet most of the time. um, I've got the blessing of a nice home. I have the blessing of amenities. I have blessings of, good hospitals and schools and stuff like that. I have a major university nearby where I can go enjoy sporting events and that sort of thing. But there's parts of me that long to visit New York City or Chicago or San Francisco, or Baltimore or Philadelphia. Just spend time walking the streets and taking in the sights and the culture and the museums and the architecture and the food and the flavors and the people. But I'm not going to go to any of these places now. These cities are turning into dystopian hellholes, and it's a crying shame. I have friends of mine up in New York City. I mean, and I'm not saying anything out of school here. One of them's Mike Harlow, good buddy of mine, and he wants to get he and his family out of New York City as fast as he can, and I get it. I absolutely get it. I mean, his family's getting older. You know, in his opinion, it's reached the point that it's not redeemable. And Mike's not any different than hundreds of others. Of thousands of people are leaving New York City or Chicago or Detroit. You know, and it just if ever there was a golden opportunity for people of a conservative governing political philosophy to make inroads in these metropolitan areas, now's the time. Now's the time. Well, and that's a good point. And maybe that's a solution. To me, though, I don't disagree with where Trump's going with this. I understand in principle what he's wanting to do, but to me, maybe it's a better question: can we not reform these cities politically, or is it reached the point there's just no doing it, and on we go? You know, but it does. It just breaks my heart for New York City. It really does. And I get, and I understand there are people that are going to live there. They are going to stay there, and they have their reasons, and I don't fault them for that. Maybe it's family that's there. Maybe they're raising young kids. They don't want to disrupt their lives. You know, maybe the economic opportunity is too good and they really don't want to leave. I get it. But man, for most anybody else, it's just a crying shame. It really is. Truly it is. So while we're waiting on this Texas vote to come down, and by the way, up in Connecticut, I want to thank you for keeping an eye on this one for us. I'll keep on doing my thing here on my side. But yeah, when that vote comes down, let me know because we definitely want to get into this. There are some good pieces of news that have recently come out, at least as it relates to Donald Trump. Take a look at this. Here's a headline. Georgia judge orders two trials for defendants in Trump election case. Two defendants will get a speedy trial starting in October, but the others, including Donald J. Trump, can have more time to prepare, the judge ruled. Article written by Richard Fawcett and Danny Hakim. A judge on Thursday granted former President Donald Trump and 16 others a separate trial from two other co-defendants who will go to trial next month in the Georgia election interference case. The judge, Scott McAfee of Fulton County Superior Court, has laid out an expedited trial schedule for Kenneth Chesbrough and Sidney Powell, two lawyers who helped Mr. Trump try to stay in power after losing the 2020 election. The two had invoked their right under Georgia law to seek a speedy trial, in part to avoid the high cost of a more protracted legal fight. Their trial is set to begin with a jury on October 23rd. Judge McAfee, in a 7-page order on Thursday, said he had hoped to have a jury seated by November 3rd to comply with the speedy trial law. A trial date for Mr. Trump and other 16 co-defendants has not been set. In his order, McAfee described what has come to be known as a mega trial, but he also raised the possibility that those 17 might not be tried altogether in the end if some make successful arguments to break up their cases. Well, this is good news, actually. Very good news. I mean, I don't like the fact that Trump's being railroaded at all in all this. I mean, it's bad enough you got Jack Boot Smith, which, by the way, we got some news on him too. But this Fannie Willis down in, or Fawny, which means I don't know how to pronounce her name, because either way I go, I've got a nickname for it. She could be um, Phony Fawny if you pronounce her name Fawny, but if her name goes Fanny, she's Fanny Pack. But either way, this crazy DA down in Fulton County is trying to railroad Trump into a fast trial. And I'm like, you cannot do this. This is the former president of the United States. But a judge finds that, no, we're not setting a trial date yet. Forget it. We're not doing it. And I get it. I mean, part of it is, he's got, he's got all kinds of things going on. I mean, not just him, Trump, but all these other defendants. They're trying to trial them together. How do you do something like that? That's crazy. But I mentioned that there is some news from Jackboot Smith. Did y'all heard about this one? Try this on for size. Special counsel asked for narrow gag order for Trump in election interference case. Jack Smith's office says Trump's disparaging and inflammatory attacks have spurred threats against witnesses and threatens the court process. Let's take a little bit of a look at this. By Ryan Riley and Daniel Barnes. Citing threats against individuals former President Donald Trump has targeted, special counsel Jack Smith has asked a federal judge for a narrowly tailored gag order that restricts the 2024 presidential candidate from making certain extrajudicial statements about the election interference cases brought against him. A redacted copy of the government's filing, released Friday after an order from Judge Tanya Shutkin, comes in connection with the election interference case, one of 4 criminal cases the former president is facing, 2 of which are federal. The defendant has established practice of issuing inflammatory public statements targeting at individuals or institutions that present an obstacle or challenge to him, the special counsel wrote. Oh, for the love of God. Okay. First of all, hey, Jackboot, you're a weenie. You are an absolute weenie. Okay, now, I'm no lawyer, but from what I understand, an order like this is only supposed to be used against the government, not against the defendant. But yet, here we go. We're going to try to restrict the right to freedom of speech of an American citizen. Now, you'll notice that I didn't say restrict the right of a former president of the United States. To me, who you are is not the issue here. The issue is the government is trying to use the courts to restrict your right to freedom of speech. This thing ought to be thrown out on its ear. And I'll tell you this much, and this is just me talking. If this screwy judge agrees to this, if I'm Trump's lawyers, I would absolutely and immediately appeal this straight up to the Supreme Court on the grounds of free speech. Because, I mean, this farce has gone on long enough. The only way, realistically speaking, there's only 2 things in my book. They're going to cause this thing to be done and over with. One is if Trump wins in November of 2024, or B, the Supreme Court steps in and shuts this nonsense down. And that's exactly what it is. It's nonsense. Okay? That's all it is. But this gag order is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, we got that going on. Let's see. I think there was one other thing that I found related to this. No, it was a post from Julie Kelly, so I'll just leave that alone. But yeah, we got that going on. So it's about 10 minutes after 12. We're kind of hanging around, lingering to see how this vote goes down in Texas. I'm going to see if I can pull something up right now. I may not be able to get the audio, but I can find out what's going on with the trial anyway. Let me see what we got here. Do 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 do. Da 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 da. me see if I can do something on Twitter here real fast. Hang on. Texas impeachment. Oh. Okay, we've got a link. Maybe. Okay, hang on a minute. So yeah, it looks like they're going to vote in the next little bit on this. So looking to see if I can find. Did you see those teams playing real life GTA? No, I have not seen this. I have not seen this. Did you see those teams playing real life GTA? Horrible. No, I have not. Lee, if you got Leanne, if you got a link to that, throw it in the chat. I'll take a look at it. I will definitely take a look at it. Senate.texas.gov. Hang on, y'all. I'm trying to pull some up here real fast. Sorry for this, but trying to see if I can find this hot link. /AV live PHP. Okay. Let's see if I can. Oh no, Grant. Oh no, I did not see that. Well, now wait a minute. I heard about it. I heard about this, and I think I saw a clip, but I wasn't able to dig into it any further than that, really. Okay, they're saying it looks like they're saying some kind of a prayer. I've got a hot link pulled up to this thing. So anyway, we're going to see what we can do here. But while we're waiting on that, let me back out of here for a second. No, that's horrible. They killed a cyclist. I used to ride road bike on a regular basis, and yeah, well, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by that at all. Terrible. Truly, truly terrible. Oh, goodness. Goodness. Hey, guys, I'm still here, but hang on one second because I'll be right back. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm still here. I just got to step away for 1 second. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, really. Yeah, pretty much. Oh man, going back to this. Wow, that's terrible. That is just terrible. So while we're waiting for things to go down in Texas, so y'all heard about this one? Try this. The UAW has launched a strike against all three of the major automakers. I haven't seen something like this in a long time. Matter of fact, I don't think anybody's seen something like this, to be honest. Yeah, on Friday, Thursday or Friday, all the UAW walked out on Ford, Chevy, all of them, and said, "Nope, nope, we're out." So you got strikes going in Detroit, Ohio. Yeah. Well, yeah, and they probably are. They probably are. Biden doesn't need this. The country doesn't need it. Biden definitely doesn't need it. And I've got a feeling that there's going to be some political hay made here. Now, the reason that I bring this up, aside from the economics, is in part the politics. Because you got to remember something about union members, and y'all know this, that that the membership, is that what they're asking for? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Now that is crazy. That is straight crazy. That is straight up crazy. Okay, going down to Texas. Just voted on Article 1, 31 Senate paper ballots. Oh, for heaven's sake. They're now reading each senator's vote. Okay. All right. Well, we'll try. We'll hang around, till normal time, but, let's see what happens. God, that is nuts. 32 hours a week and a 40% raise. Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, the auto workers are on strike. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is this is one of those moments where government greed is probably going to come back to bite them. What I'm getting at is you're going to have all these green subsidies being given to these auto companies. Well, now the auto workers are realizing, oh crap, they're not going to need us as often as they otherwise would to make cars that are gasoline powered. And I'm telling you right now, if Donald Trump is smart, and I think he is politically, he's going to make hay out of all this. As a matter of fact, I found this morning as I was getting ready for everything. Let me show you something. Here it is. Trump defends auto workers against Biden's green agenda. Quote, "You're being sold down the river to China." Not too surprising. Let me get this pulled up. I can move it around. Where are you? All right, there you are. There we go. Former President Donald Trump is warning America's auto workers that Joe Biden's green energy agenda will outsource their jobs to China as the UAW goes on strike against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. What is Stellantis? Maybe that's Chrysler. I don't know. As Breitbart economics editor John Carney details, 13,000 UAW members have started striking against three automakers as contract negotiators have yet to deliver assurances that Biden's rapid push for electric vehicles will not jeopardize their wages and jobs. The Biden administration has been pushing policies to electrify most new vehicles within a decade or so. That rush toward electric vehicles will mean a rapid decline in payrolls um, for auto workers, even as the automakers enjoy Inflation Reduction Act subsidies. Trump, in an interview with CNBC, aligned himself with the auto workers and warned them that the Biden administration, paired with the UAW leadership, is not only stopping China from gaining economic dominance over the EV industry, but actively working to hand the Communist Party full control of EV supply chains. Quote, "The auto workers will not have any jobs because all these cars are going to be made in China. The electric cars automatically are going to be made in China," Trump said. So, yeah, this is what's going on there. And the auto workers, they're not looking to Joe Biden to try to solve their problem on this. That's for daggone sure. Take a look at this. This is from Politico. Quote, I don't know what he has done. In UAW president's hometown, auto workers lash out at Joe Biden. Article by Adam Wren. At a union hall here in UAW President Sean Fain's hometown, a half eaten pizza and a bag of Werther's original candies were spread out on a conference table. Uncertainty about what would happen next and frustration with President Joe Biden hung in the air. Talking about this gentleman who's there. 45 minutes to showtime, president of the local. Has spent half of his life as an auto worker in Kokomo, where he was born and raised. Before that, he'd worked at a meat packing plant and served a stint in the U.S. Army. Now, for the first time in 3 decades, was waiting to hear whether his union would participate in a targeted strike against all of the big three automakers. He'd spent the last day arranging for enough porta potties for his workers to survive hours-long picket line shifts to the tune of $2,000 a month. Early in the afternoon, he mowed his yard and downed a Monster Energy drink. Yeah. Had President Joe Biden, the self described most pro union president in history, done to forestall the strike? I don't know what he's done. Ask him. I don't think he knows what he's done. Seriously, I'm not trying to be mean. Yeah, the union is not exactly expecting Joe Biden to do a whole lot of anything. As a matter of fact, and understandably so, they're looking at the situation, realizing, geez, this guy's the one that's causing the problem. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. If he can get a UAW endorsement, that'd be huge. I mean, but I mean, even beyond the question of the endorsement, here's what's going to happen. There has been a divide for years between union membership and its leadership on who they support politically. The leadership is going to support the Democrats. The membership is going to support the person that's going to protect them, in their opinion. And if ever there was a golden opportunity to get these kind of workers and bring them into a conservative populist coalition, now's the time. Notice I didn't say the Republican coalition. Okay. I said conservative populist. The Republican Party, in my book, has done very little to help bring the quote working man under their political tent. So as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't get their vote. But that's just me. So that is what's going on with the strike. Oh, by the way, there's one other piece of news that I'll share. And this one is really kind of scary and it makes me sad. It really does. And it speaks to the just basic meanness that is Joe Biden. And if you all think he doesn't have a mean streak to him, let me show you something. Remember a while back that I reported that Robert Kennedy Jr. had asked for Secret Service protection and the Department of Homeland Security denied it? I wonder now if they're going to change their mind. Armed man arrested at RFK Jr. event in LA. Article by Joel Pollack. An armed man was detained by security and later arrested by police before the start of an event with Democrat presidential contender Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Friday evening with the Hispanic community in Los Angeles. According to sources, the man arrived at the event and claimed to be employed by the organizers. Campaign officials, however, did not recognize him and detained him until police arrived. The man was found to be carrying a handgun and ammunition. He will likely face charges of impersonating a police officer or a federal agent and possibly unlawful possession of firearms, according to Breitbart news sources. The Kennedy campaign is sensitive to security concerns given the tragic history of the Kennedy family. President John Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, and Senator Robert F. Kennedy, the current candidate's father, was assassinated in 1968 in Los Angeles, shortly after winning the Democratic Party's presidential primary. In July, Kennedy noted that the Biden administration had denied him Secret Service protection, despite the fact that he had requested it from the Department of Homeland Security and had extensively documented the need for it. Kennedy is gaining on President Joe Biden in some polls, though he still trails overall by a wide margin. Many Democrats say they would like to vote for a candidate other than the incumbent. That one makes me sad and it makes me mad. Look, regardless of what you think of Robert Kennedy Jr., his beliefs, his everything else, because of who he is, there are going to be people that are going to try and take a shot at him. Yeah, and where this guy who got arrested, I agree with you completely, Leanne. I want to know. I absolutely want to know. So, so yeah, that's that's really kind of scary. That's really kind of scary. Okay, so it sounds like he survived the first two counts. And how many counts does he have against him? Let me find it here again. There's 18 different counts. Okay, so he survived the first two. All right, so far so good. So far so good. But yeah, 18 counts. Okay. 2 down, 16 to go. So, we're just waiting to see what happens here. Okay, 5 and 5. So those are the ones we ought to be worried about. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we'll hang around for at least till we get to numbers 5 and number 6. So, I mean, I've got nothing going on this afternoon, so yeah, we can hang around for a little bit. Let me see. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on with my audio here. Trying to get this thing to do its thing, and for some reason it just does not want to. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. Oh well. But yeah. Yeah, that's what I've got for front porch brunch this morning. So we're kind of hanging around waiting to see how things are going in the Texas Senate on this vote for Paxton. We're going to at least hang around through Articles 5 and Article 6. Okay. Hmm. That's kind of ugly. That's not good. That's not good at all. Like I said, y'all down in Texas, if this doesn't give you an idea of what you need to do, you know who they are. It's time to start cleaning house. It is time to start cleaning the house down there. So I may not be able to give an audio, but I can at least pull up the video. So hang on, let me see if I can do that much. Let me see if I can full screen this to make it a little bit better. There we go. So Miss Up in Connecticut, if you can, I mean, I can't do the audio on this, but if you can give me a tally on the vote while they're counting them up. I realize that we've all had the internet now in our lives for 30 years, but technology still amazes me. It truly does. I mean, here we are sitting in our respective homes, wherever we may be in America, and we're able to watch in real time an event taking place in Texas. Too late on this one, but I'll let you know. Okay. 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 Fair enough. Fair enough. But while we're waiting around, I'll let you know some of what I've got going on for next week. There's going to be new videos coming out, as always. Wednesday, I'm going to be on the YouTube channel Keto and Crime. We are going to try and do something fun over the next few weeks leading into Halloween. We're going to be doing a review of some movies. And Tracy, who is the proprietrix of that channel, has invited me back to do a review of one of the Purge movies. So we're going to be watching that. And then we will, hopefully I'm going to get some interviews lined up, in the near future. I've been a little slack on getting guests on here. There's some folks I really want to get, and I'm trying to find a way to make that happen. So, but for sure, we're going to have new videos out next week, and as always, I want to thank every one of you guys. The channel is growing, steady, slow and steady. You know, we're up to like 470 subscribers now, which is just awesome, and that's all you guys. I'll do the work, I'll do the videos, I'll do the best I can to make the best product I possibly can bring forth. But in the end, it's all on you guys. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I mean, we are a small, going little concern with hopes on being a large, big concern. And you guys are a large part of making that happen. So, you know, it is absolutely, it's very humbling to me. So it looks like, hang on. Let me see if I can do something here. Okay, they're doing a hand count and a wow. Well, I'll give those boys in Texas a lot of credit. They're being thorough. I'll give them that much. I'll give them that. Looks like they caucused 14 yays again. Okay, this is good news. This is good news. So have they gone to caucus? If they've gone to caucus, then I'm gonna go, and not that I'm trying to cut anything off at all, but if they've gone to caucus, then we might just go ahead and just end it right here for the day. But okay, I'm kind of watching this too. I'm not again, I've got no audio, but just trying to figure out where they're going here. So at least okay, all the 14 yays are the same people. Okay, okay. Well, we'll see if that holds up. We will see if that holds up. Disregard of official duty. Okay, okay, okay. Have they started the vote on Article 4? Okay. All right, I'm going to full screen this for just a second, and I will be right back. Okay, there we go. If you're stopping by or dropping in, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're watching the vote take place on Article 4 in the trial of Attorney General Ken Paxton, and bringing it back up. And it looks like they're about ready to announce what the vote is on this. Oh, okay. This might be a good sign. Might be a very good sign. Okay. Okay. So for sure, he survived the first 4 counts so far. Am I interpreting that correctly? Pretty much. Pretty much about getting a free kitchen. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Wow. 28 no's. Okay. Okay. So now we're headed into up in Connecticut. So we're now headed into the 2 articles that are the most troublesome, numbers 5 and 6, if I'm understanding this correctly. Is that where we're headed here? Again, we're watching live coverage of the vote on the impeachment trial of Attorney General Ken Paxton down in Texas. We're being told that Articles 5 and Article 6 are the ones that are the most problematic. So let's see if it goes down. So if he survives, I mean, and again, I have not followed this as closely as I probably should, but if he survives 5 and 6, and again, it's a long way to the end, but if those are the 2 big ones, then my thinking is he's going to make it. So we'll see what happens here. Article 5, misusing of power and appointing district attorneys. That's interesting. Yeah, this is probably one of those I should have followed more closely than I did, but person's only got so much bandwidth. So let's see what's happening here. Okay, so it looks like a pretty standard process. There's a paper ballot. They mark on the paper ballot yay or nay. These 2 gentlemen, gather them up, bring them to this kind of a seashell looking thing. The clerk starts doing the tally. After she gets done with the tally, hands it over to uh, the lieutenant governor who's presiding over the trial. And then from there, each senator gives a recorded yay or nay by standing and announcing their vote, as I understand it. Unless I'm misinterpreting that. If I'm wrong about this, set me straight. But I see some people kind of coming into the room. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're watching in real time coverage of the vote on the impeachment trial for Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. So far, there have been 4 articles that have been voted, and he survived the first 4 votes as far as being found guilty of those articles. Now, according to reports, numbers 5 and number 6 are the ones that are the big issue here. So we're kind of hanging around, to see how that goes. Article 5, to bring it back up for folks who are just stepping into the room, is misused power in appointing district attorneys up in Connecticut, who's kind of keeping us. By the way, thank you. I mean that sincerely. Thank you, because I knew the vote might take place this week. I didn't know what was going down this morning. I think it's kind of been keeping us up on what's been going on, and we're tuning in, not necessarily with audio, but we can at least see what's going on. So this is cooperative journalism. I've got the video. She's got the play-by-play, and we're kind of making this thing happen in real time, which is really kind of cool. So we'll see how this goes down. Looks like she's just about got it tallied. Just about through with this thing, it looks like. But yeah, it's just amazing. Just amazing that we're able to watch this in real time. Kind of extraordinary. I mean, for all my gripes about the internet, and God knows I have many of them, it's moments like this that make you realize what a blessing it can be, in so many different ways. It truly is remarkable that we can have the opportunity to see something like this in real time, you know, just by the power of what you can do with a computer. That's amazing to me. Just amazing. All right. Sounds like she's got the tally. She's handing it up to the lieutenant governor. How many yays do they need to be able to convict him? So it sounds like am I right in interpreting he survived count number 5? They need 21. So they need 21 to convict. On Article 5, they've got 13. So it sounds like he survived count number 5. All right. 21 to convict. They only got 13. Okay, that's Article 5. All right, now let's get to number 6 and see what happens here. Okay. Now, what's Article number 6? What are they trying to get him with on Article number 6? Terminate. All right, so count number 6, terminated employees who reported him for misconduct. Okay, I could see where this one would be another big problematic charge. Definitely. Definitely. And a yay vote is to convict. Okay. Okay. And they need 21 votes in order to be able to convict him on the count. Okay. All right. So those nice young men in well-pressed suits are going around again, gathering up votes. There are 3 whistleblowers on this, which is why this count. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to find out if Paxton's lawyer Busby is as good as we think he is, because this is going to get interesting real quick. Okay, so she's starting to do the tally, and So while we're waiting, just out of curiosity, because I know right now there's some college football games on. Is anybody watching anything by way of college football right now? I mean, my team's got the bye week this week, so I haven't got. I mean, I'll find a game to watch somewhere, but I'm just wondering if anybody's got anything out there that they're by way of college or even pro football for that matter. If you're a pro football fan now that the season started, I'd be curious to find out, if you're got a good game going this weekend or whatever. So, but that Colorado team's fun to watch. I'm telling you that right now. And calling it the Dion show is probably the best thing you could do for it. So, but yeah. Okay, we're waiting. We're working our way through. They're doing the tally on the vote on Article 6 in the impeachment trial of Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of the state of Texas. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're just waiting for them to give the tally over to the Lieutenant Governor, who's the presiding officer on the trial. Oh, you're talking about Dion when he was playing for the Cowboys? Oh, yeah. Deion Sanders is a very unique individual, be it as an athlete, be it as a coach, be it as a person. He's definitely lived a life and is living a life. It's kind of amazing to watch. Truly, it is. So, okay, it looks like she's doing the tally. Oh, Paxton has survived count number 6. Yes, 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 yes. Good news. Good news. Very good news. Okay. Okay. Now, up in Connecticut. Now don't get me wrong, the other charges are still out there, but are these the ones that were the most troublesome? In other words, there of the remaining, what is it? There's 18 counts. Of the remaining 12, are they more like lesser charges? I mean, are these things that, we should be keeping an eye on as the day goes on? So, I mean, if he survived 5 and 6, I'm thinking he's home free here. I mean, granted, I mean, I don't know how the other votes are gonna come out, but, um, yeah, if these are the 2 worst ones, both, then this is a good sign. This is a really good sign. 15 and 16 are similar to 5 and 6. Okay. Okay. So if he gets past 15 and 16, he's home. All right. Okay. Well, I tell you what, for everybody's sake, and I know that everyone can watch this on their own, I'm gonna go ahead and slip away on this one. But I want to thank you in all seriousness. I want to thank you for telling me about the vote this morning and keeping me and everybody else who's watching this so well informed on what was happening. That's just amazing. I mean, this is the fun. Um, Beck did an in-depth on Friday, but missed a lot of it. Top of the hour, number 3. Okay, yeah. If you're a subscriber to the Blaze, or you can catch that, go do it. Absolutely. But yeah, I want to thank Up in Connecticut for pointing this one out to us and keeping us so well informed. And I want to thank everybody for being gracious and understanding this. We could kind of work this in. I think this was cool. I really do. I know it was very impromptu and everything else, but I think this was very, very cool to watch this go down. So thank you. I mean, really, seriously, thank you. This was fun. I mean, the whole morning's been fun. And I want to thank everybody who's been here this morning, Leanne up in Connecticut, Shirley, everybody else who stopped in, everybody on Twitter, everybody on Rumble. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We'll be back next week with new videos and going to be doing that live stream Wednesday on Keto, Keto, and Crime channel. Check it out on YouTube. I'll be there with Brentley from Dangerous Rhetoric and from Tracy, who's the proprietrix of the Keto and Crime channel. We're going to be doing a review of The Purge. So, again, as always, I love you guys. Thank you for being here this Saturday morning and now early afternoon. You guys are totally awesome. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday morning, if not sooner. In the meanwhile, continue to spread the word, and y'all be awesome. And remember, it's, as Tom T. Hall said, it's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. We'll see you later.